Hello learners. Today we are going to discuss about mitigation measures of physical hazards, one of the important session in the environmental and occupational hazards. So before studying the mitigation measures, we should understand first that how our body, that is a human body, reacts to hot conditions. That means we have already studied in the previous session that what are the physical hazards of the extreme temperatures, whether it is hot, whether it is cold temperature, and also we have seen that noise and vibration hazards. So in this session, first one after the other, we have to see that how to mitigate this type of physical hazards. So in that sequence, first we have to think about extreme temperatures. So how our body reacts for the hot conditions. So our body has a own mechanism that it defends itself from the heat by different ways, like breathing, sweating and changing the blood flow. And then sweating is a body function. Definitely it helps in regulating the body temperature constant. So when our body gets heated up, that means immediately heat stress condition exists. We will feel that some sort of stress because of heat. So heat stress develops so many ailments like heat exhaustion and heat stroke and also heat cramps and sometimes rash, and then finally it will go into the fainting stage. So these are normally we are experiencing in each and every summer at hot days, and then when the temperature touches 46 or otherwise 48 degree centigrade. So first we will see that what is meant by the heat cramps. So heat cramp is the tiring of the muscle. That means our muscles will get tired. And then what would be the mitigation measure? That mitigation measure is we have to provide the electrolyte solution. That means excess of sweat, definitely our muscle will get stressed. So the electrolyte solution. So if you must have observed that if suppose dehydration takes place in any of the person, normally we will give the electrolyte solution. So, and then another one is heat syncope, that is a fainting, that is a short time loss of consciousness. And then next one is the sweat. So for this one is we have to make a person, those who have undergone this type of hazards, we have to make them to rest in a cool place, and otherwise we have to immediately contact the doctor, that is a medical attention is required. If suppose if the physical hazard is a heat rash, so rash are sometimes itching, redness and burning sensation, that is a prickly sensation. So we have to clean that sort of physical hazard happen to us. Immediately we have to clean our skin and also cover with loose cotton cloth, and then sometimes we can also go for the cool bath. So, and the other one is the mitigation measures of the physical hazards of the extreme temperatures. So first we have to discuss about extreme temperature mitigation measures. So we have already seen that heat stress and other associated diseases that can be reduced by the some technical controls which are using in the exhaust ventilation at the high pressure or the high temperature zones. Particularly we are talking about the industrial setup. So for example, if furnaces are there and then hot machineries are to be properly shielded, that means properly covered. And regular morning to check this monitoring of this one, and the steam leaks are there or not, and then we have to observe whether there is any leak or any breakage of that sort of equipment. And then use of coolers, fans and also ACs have to be installed, and use of power tools instead of manpower sometimes. So the exposure of workers to extensively high temperatures and humidity is one of the most serious health hazard in the incidents that are happened in the occupation in many modern industrial plants. And the question of measures of effective mitigation of these conditions is most important, and they are not properly addressing these days. So then we have to understand that what are the physiological considerations of our body towards heat. So our body has its own mechanism, that we know that, and then how our body act and then react about this type of extreme temperatures. So the phenomenon of heat production, heat loss and heat regulation by our body are associated with body's natural physiological conditions. Even though the temperature of the body in health normally, it fluctuates during the day that we are experiencing, but it is also maintained by regulating the amount of body heat produced and the amount of body heat lost. So the normal temperature of the body is about 98.50 Fahrenheit. So it is an expression of the resulting balance between heat production and the heat loss. So once this state of equilibrium is disturbed by any means, immediately our body will get into ill effects. And then if we are talking about the high external temperatures on our body, definitely it will give a negative impacts to our body. So it is necessary to consider the factors which are concerned in heat production, heat loss and their regulation. And next we will look into that what is heat production. So the heat production by our body is the result of the chemical process which are involved in vital activities in general and also in the metabolic process. So that is supported by the food, drink and air that we are consuming. So 80% of food eaten by us that goes to furnish body heat. So that means all energy spent in the body that finally becomes to heat. That means it is getting converted into heat. So if it is so, then are there any variations in heat production or not? Yes, of course. While the amount of heat that is produced within the body that can never sink below a certain minimum, and the amount will definitely vary according to the character as well as the extent of metabolic process that is taking place within the tissues. So suppose muscular tissue, it exceeds all others in the amount of heat produced because its mass and then activity. So any increase in muscular activity like physical workout and also running, and that will add much that amount of heat produced by the body. So if you will notice that after getting exercised, our body definitely will get hot. So the increase in the amount of body heat that is produced by the muscular activity is the most important from an industrial standpoint of view. Next we will discuss about heat loss. That means the loss of heat by the body is a physical process, and also it takes place by the conduction and convection, and sometimes it is by radiation and also by the evaporation. So these are the constant procedures, established procedures. So heat is also lost to some extent in the excreta, that is the urine as well as the feces. So next is the variation in heat loss. So the amount of heat lost by the body by means of the whatever we have the above mentioned, that is a convection, and then so that is a conduction, convection and then radiation and evaporation, that varies according to the several external physical conditions to which our body is exposed. So under normal conditions of temperature and humidity, the percentage of total heat loss by each of these means is by radiation, convection and conduction as well as the cutaneous evaporation is about 80% by pulmonary evaporation, and also about 15% by heating the air which we are inhaled, and about 2.5% and also that about the similar amount is also lost in heating the food and drink and also in the excreta. So these are some of the conditions where we can observe the heat loss. And abnormal conditions of temperature and humidity that alters the amount that lost by each of these means. So this is most important, and also the amount lost by the conduction, for example, will depend upon the relative temperature of the surface of the body and also the substance with which it is in contact. So each and every part and every mechanism is most important to get the heat loss. And what are the symptoms that are produced by the exposure to heat? There are two types of symptoms are there. One is acute symptoms. So that means acute symptoms, that is where heat is produced, that is rapidly by the body, and also it can be dissipated. That means the resulting in heat exhaustion as well as the heat stroke. If we will consider the chronic, So what are the chronic effects of this extreme temperature or the extreme heat hazards? So the effect of long and then continued exposure to these hazards are slow and also very tricky and are evidenced in degenerative changes like arthritic and muscular rheumatism and chronic skin disorders sometimes, and also arteriosclerosis. And in addition to this one, that long continued exposure to excessive heat definitely will lower the general physical tone of an worker and or the employee, even though there is no special disease conditions become evident. So that means if once we get tired, our productivity will be zero. That also we have to think about it. And the next type of heat generation is the effect of radiant heat. That means wherever there is a radiant heat is concerned, the effects are generally local. So that means the part which is affected is the which is exposed, that part only get affected. That means changes in the skin, that definitely varying from a slight redness and also to sometimes it may burn of the second degree, that will be caused without contact with the source of heat. So employees or workers, those who are exposed to intense radiant heat, that is frequently complain of their eyes and even temporary loss of vision is a common complaint. So we have to understand that how dangerous an exposure to the towards heat. So and then inflammatory conditions are also there. So inflammatory conditions of the conjunctiva is also common among these people, those who are working under heat for longer duration, and also the causation of the cataract that has been assigned by some of the people, and also exposure to radiant heat. And swollen and painful feet and rheumatoid pains of legs and joints are frequently complained of by the workers, those who must stand on the hot surfaces for longer duration. So now we have to see that these are the physical hazards which are exposed towards heat by the people, those who are working in industries and also sometimes in working in furnaces. And we will see that whether we can mitigate it or not. So to some extent we can say that we can mitigate completely. So we will see that. That means the removal of sources of the heat. So the temperature is frequently high in working locations because of the faulty arrangement of machinery sometimes, and also sometimes it is improper housing of that particular department where it is located in that furnace or in that industries. So due to the lack of the forethought, and that means proper planning, and the sources of heat like hot water or steam pipes, boilers or fire rooms, steam operated machinery. So and these type of machinery are quite frequently placed either or otherwise near or in the working location of the employees, which are not concerned in their care or operation. So in many instances there is no legitimate reason for this, and also they could be removed elsewhere without interfering with the operation or efficiency of the department. That means much to the comfort and efficiency of the man and the ultimately benefit of the employer. So sometimes those occupied in the control of steam operated machinery, they are placed in a similar position, that is near the source of the steam or the near source of the heat. So in many cases this is unnecessary, of course, as the control mechanism could that is without impairing operation, that will be placed at some distance from the boilers. So that is a moderate change one has to do in the furnaces or the in industries. The working zones, if we will consider that the working zones of those employed at boilers or furnaces are not in condition in many instances, so restricted that the worker is subjected to the heat all the time whenever that employee is on duty. So due considerations of this would have resulted in working zones so placed or enlarged that with the exception of the time that is actually consumed in stoking. So the worker could remain away from the heated zone without compromising and then efficiency in the performance of his duty. So in order to minimize heat radiation, the source should be properly insulated. So this is most satisfactorily accomplished by the surroundings, the source of heat with either the water jacket or otherwise a hollow steel covering through which water is circulated. That means the basic idea is to make that sort of surroundings to be cooled. And also sometimes buildings have to be devoted to hot processes, should be large and then high roofed and then with ample floor space, and that could be provided with the large openings in the walls and roof also sometimes to facilitate natural ventilation. So that can be done for if suppose that sort of space is existing. And then some occupational practices we have to discuss. So use of cotton dresses, we can suggest our workers, those who are working near heat. So cotton dresses should be arranged with loose fitting and also lightweight to evaporate the sweat. So that sort of comfort levels also we have to check. And using of a hat or a cap to protect the head as well as face. And drinking of plenty of liquids, that is water or juices, or otherwise sometimes we have to make balance of the electrolytes like sports drinks. So keep the work schedule during the cooler parts of the day and also to early hours or later half of the day, that can be scheduled for the employees, those who are working in the industries. And new employees are the employees return after 2 weeks. So they have to be given 50% of the normal schedule work to again acclimatize, to adopt that hot conditions. So workers should monitor their body weight in regular intervals. They do not lose not more than 1.5% of the body weight by sweating in a single day. So this is a condition and also it is a parameter. And the next comes to the personal protective equipment, that is mandatory. Nowadays everyone almost we are wearing masks, but particularly those who are working in these conditions, there should be a mandatory personal protective equipment. And then those who are working in extreme heat conditions. And the first condition is the use of heat reflective dress to alleviate the intensity of radiant heat sources like furnaces. And it is also advisable to the worker that not fully covers up by their bodies, they will have a trouble in evaporating sweat. And also use of ice vest or cooling vest to protect the body by removing heat from the skin. And also systems like liquid cooling, which is also remove heat from the body. And cool liquid, what it will do, it will circulate in the suit around the body and also reduce the heat. And the most important part is we have to train the workers and their supervisors for early detection of heat stress symptoms. So identifying the symptom is also a big deal. So the workers should possess the knowledge about the recognizing the situations like dehydration, heat cramps, heat exhaustion or heat stroke, and also need to maintain the electrolyte balance to sustain them. So supervisors have to close watch on workers for symptoms of heat ailments and also interrupt the work to avoid serious health consequences. They also have to make work schedule to provide suitable rest periods. That is a must. And foremost thing they have to ensure. They should train the workers in technical measures like engineering controls. Sometimes they are unaware of how to operate and then how to control. So they have to well equipped before going into the work. And use of personal protective equipment and also stringent work practices that needs to reduce the risk of the heat associated ailments. And then we will see that cold stress prevention. So protective woolen clothing is also most important to reduce the cold stress. Of course in winters what we are wearing, at the same way they also every day whenever they are working in the cold conditions they have to wear. That means they have to 3 layers of clothing types they have to wear. That means stay away from the and also along with this they have to stay away from the alcohol or the smoking and certain medications. So these are the important precautions they have to take before going for the work in the colder regions. And also an outer layer of clothing that should allow the air circulation, that is most important. And out of these 3 layers, the middle layer of clothing should be woolen, in order to absorb sweat and also insulate the body even under the wet condition. And the third one is the inner layer, that should be of the synthetic clothing that should provide the ventilation. So all these things we have to maintain, and then we have to make it sure. And then head is also most important, that should be covered with the hat, and also feet, and also sometimes palms should be covered properly with insulated boots and then gloves. And then keep a change of dry clothing which is available in case of work clothes become wet. And then workplace practices we have to identify and then monitor. That means drink plenty of fluids by avoiding caffeine and also alcohol to reduce the risk of the dehydration. And then plan the heavy work schedule during the daytime, and also take breaks periodically from the cold temperatures. And also schedule to work in pairs or groups to monitor each other about the symptoms of the cold stress. And most important criteria is the technical controls. And then some of the engineering controls that can be used to avoid the risk of the cold stress, like use of radiant heaters for providing uniform heat to the workers, and also cover the working areas with proper shielding. If temperature is below 300 Fahrenheit, and then that provide the insulated equipment to the workers. And training is also most important, just like with the workers, those who are working in the hot conditions. That is, the supervisors and workers have to be trained in order to recognize the symptoms of the cold stress. And supervisors should monitor the workers for the symptoms of cold stress, and also permit the workers to take rest. So by observation. So they also have to make work schedule to provide suitable resting periods, and also the availability of the liquids. So that means they have to monitor closely. So they should train the workers in technical measures like engineering controls, and the use of the personal protective equipment, and stringent work practices to reduce the risk of the cold associated ailments by the mock drills or the mock sessions. And mitigation measures, if we will see that the noise hazard. In the previous session we have seen that what is noise hazard and how the hazard will damage our health. So exposure to noise is measured. We have seen that the units of the sound pressure levels, which is called the decibels, that is using an A weight sound levels. So there are several ways to control and reduce worker exposure to noise in a workplace where exposure has been shown to be very excessive. So engineering controls that involves modifying or replacing the equipment, or making related physical changes at the noise source, or sometimes it is along with the transmission path to reduce the noise level at the worker's ear. So examples of inexpensive are the effective engineering controls, like choosing low noise tools and machinery, and maintain and lubricate machinery and equipment with oil bearings, and place a barrier between the noise source and the employee, that is a soundproof wall or some curtains we can use, and also sometimes enclose or isolate the noise source. So these are the some of the sources we can manage. If we will see the administrative controls, they can be changed in the working place or working schedule that reduce or eliminate the workers' exposure to the noises, like operate noisy machines during the shifts when fewer people are exposed. So that means limited number of people are there, then we can use that sort of machinery. And the limit of amount of that time period also of that person that spends at a noise pressure or the noise source. And also we have to provide the quiet areas where workers can gain relief from the hazardous noise sources. That means continuously if one can work in the noisy equipment environment, so it is very difficult, and we have to give them the periodically rest. And the control noise exposure through distance, that is quite effective, and also it is simple and inexpensive administrative control. And specifically for every doubling of the distance between the source of noise and the worker, the noise is decreased by 6 decibels A. So the mitigation of the vibration hazard we have to check, and then because vibration is also associated with the noise hazard. So the testing the source of vibration, the path of measures that is transmitted, and the end receiver. And also ensure the vehicle drivers for regular change of posture, and also incorporation of anti-vibration tools in handles. And we can also use that dampers and springs which are to be used for the insulation of vibrating items like a seat, headrest, like that. And then lining of the handles with a soft resilient material after purchasing. And the most important is monitoring the equipment to avoid extra vibration and also controls and resonance. So controlling the speed limit of the vehicles and the controlling the working hours on the vibrating surfaces, that provides regular breaks in working hours, and also the execution of personal protective equipment. Dear learner, so these many things we have learned. That means the hazards and then mitigation measures of the extreme temperature conditions, that is extreme heat as well as extreme cold, and also the noise as well as vibration. So I would like to conclude over here that in India is a developing nation. We know that growing towards the industrialization. So as industries develop more quickly, the health of employees also deteriorated with the same pace with more new complex problems. So every industrial worker that may expose to various types of physical hazards. So the mitigation measures definitely vary in different occupations, from the medical measures, engineering measures, and then administrative measures to legislations. So we have to understand that, so whenever there is a hazard, so we have to use the controlling measures and then personal protective measures also we have to take to protect ourselves as well as the environment. Thank you.